I mean, drinking and mixing heroin's dangerous anyway.
Yeah.
So I remember going buying this bag of heroin, and I was sat on this step. It was the back of a bowling alley, and if anybody knows the area, you walk, it's probably, I don't know, 20, 30 metres round to the main road. But weirdly enough, there's a hospital just sort of over the road. And I remember like pushing the plunger down on this needle and thinking, if I pour all this in my arm, it's going to kill us, like. And I remember just going, fuck it, like that.
Hey, what is good, YouTube? Thank you guys for tuning in. My name's Gov, and welcome to another episode of the Property Newbie Podcast. On this week's show, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Christian, who, despite having a drink and drug addiction in his early years, has completely transformed his life. Not only is he a qualified electrician, he set up a successful property management company with 2 rent-to-rent HMOs and a 3rd one on the way. And his story is just so incredibly inspiring. I know for a fact you're going to love listening to this. As always, if you enjoy the video, please be sure to like, please be sure to subscribe and turn on those bell notifications for more videos like this. But enough about that. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, so we're live in 3, 2, 1. Christian, welcome to the show, my bro.
Cheers, Gov.
How are
you? Nice to be here. It's an honour.
I see you rocking the CL real estate.
Bit of branding, you know, Gov. It has to be done.
All that product placement and that, man. All got to be. How was your trip down? Was it all right?
Yeah, it was all right. There was a road closure on the A34, but I got to see a little bit of Oxford or somewhere. It said,
oh, you did that like the proper scenic route.
Yeah, come up, don't follow your sat nav, follow the diversion. So, yeah.
Mate, thank you very much for coming down, man. So I'll start with a bit of history and then we'll get into a little bit of this. So obviously you're part of the Property Newbies Facebook group and you've been a member for pretty much almost the beginning, man. But the thing that I noticed and the thing that a lot of people will know is when you did your live. So for anyone that doesn't know, as part of the Property Newbies Facebook group, we do live feeds and all newbies just pretty much jump on a live, talk about their property journey and then just a little bit about themselves. And your live was just incredible, man. So I had to get you on. I just couldn't wait, man. I just really wanted you on, man. But let's take it all the way back to the beginning and let's talk a little bit about how's your property journey been? How did you get started? Let's start with that and let's just go from there, really.
So we start off from the
we
property
start from
journey,
the beginning, the beginning, and then we get into
the property journey.
Exactly. Let's take it back.
Right. So I grew up in like a small village. So it's quite a deprived area and stuff like that as well now. And yeah, we moved to a town when I think I was about 12 or 11 or 12. It was 1987 anyway. So it was a new housing estate. My dad was a plumber. So they like went to a sort of like a development company. They built just like a bare shell of the house.
Okay.
So my dad had a friend who was a joiner. So he'd done all the plumbing work in his house for free. He'd done all the joinery work in our house for free. He had another friend who was an electrician. So he'd done all the electrical work in our house for free.
Okay.
My dad done all, do you know, and it worked like that. And yeah, I mean, I remember when we sort of went there and, you know, so this fella's like an Italian and he's got like a flash car suit on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I want someday, that sort of things, you know what I mean? Developing and property stuff like that. And I think from a young age, I think it's just one of them things you think, you know what, property's where it's at. Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, you grow up watching stuff on the telly where, you know, they've got their old just Rolex on, driving a Porsche 911 and all that, you know what I mean? And you just think, yeah, someday. And then, but I think I always like, my sort of goal always was to become like a self-made millionaire at some point. And I probably wanted that by the time I was 40, but 44 now, never achieved it. So as I say, we moved to this like town called Peterlee when I think I was like in the last year of the junior school. And that's probably like a weird time to change. Do you know what I mean? Like when you sort of like, I don't know if I was like 12 or something like that. And that thing of feeling like not fitting in properly and all that sort of stuff. And then when you went up into the senior school, there was like people from all different areas went to that school. And it seemed like once we moved to that area, my sister was a couple of years older than me and stuff. And it seemed like I started drinking, smoking weed, do you know what I mean? From that like age, 12-year-old. I took LSD when I was 13. I had a proper bad trip. You know, like I was running around the house thinking there was snakes all over us, and just I got took to hospital, got my stomach pumped out and all that. And I come out of hospital on my 14th birthday. And as we were walking out the hospital, and my birthday's December, and you know, like the little cans of lager you get like in the beer hampers and that, like my dad was like, "Here, do you want one of these?" Do you know what I mean? And that was my 14th birthday. And I think from that moment on, I drank every night till I was like just before my 31st birthday.
Oh, no way.
So yeah, and in the past I used to say, you know, oh, like I left school in 92, so that sort of era was like all the rave music, the dance music, do you know what I mean, going clubbing and all that. I you know, I was like, oh, I'm a victim of circumstance. That's how it turned out like this. So that sort of scared us off drugs, and then I was going to the rave clubs and that, and then started taking speed and then popping D's and all that sort of stuff. And then I stopped doing all that, and then it was just, you know, I got banned from driving when I was 18, you know, and it was just like a destructive life I had, really. And that drinking just escalated and escalated. I pretty much always worked, but then I would lose jobs because I'd be getting like, you know, drunk all, like, do you know what I mean? I always seemed to get paid on a Thursday. So I'd be hammered on a Thursday night, stay off the Friday, drunk all weekend, miss the Monday. But then, I would like have jobs for like a couple of years, a few years, whatever, and then lose the job, and then I would have another job the week after. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I've worked in Holland, as well, and I come back, got into like a bad relationship, and I think that was about 2002, that relationship, and that during that breakup, the drugs in the area had sort of evolved quite a lot, and there was a lot of people on heroin and stuff like that.
Okay, so stronger stuff.
And that's the first time I took heroin, was to try and deal with that sort of rejection and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, within trying it a couple of times, I was injecting it. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I've tried all that thing, you know, like I moved to Leeds, I lived down there about a year, I ended up blowing thousands on smoking crack down there, and then, you know, I've like worked down London working away, and then always like ended up back into the village where I'm from, up north. And it got to a point, I was up for an assault on somebody, and I was working in another place in South Shields near Sunderland. And obviously I have time off to go to court and stuff like that. And they had to lay some people off in this company. And the bloke who owned it, his brother was a policeman or something, and he thought I was going to get banged up for this assault. So he says, "Look, I'm going to have to let you go." He says, you know, you know, you're more experienced in that than other people, but like you're probably going to go to prison anyway. So I basically lost my job. You know, I was sort of like made redundant, and at the time I was living in an unlicensed HMO.
No way.
So like the fella was like, "Oh no, I don't take housing benefit. You've got the end of the week to find somewhere to live." So I got on the phone, and I got in touch with, I don't know if anybody knows, like direct access hostels is where like your first point of like, it's the first sort of place. If you're homeless, so I phoned one up in Newcastle. They said, "Yeah, we've got a bed for you," sort of thing. So I went there. And at that moment in time, you know, that seemed like the worst possible time of my life. But like as things sort of transpired over that year, it was probably the best, you know, like a key point in what started the change in my life as well. So I ended up in this hostel, and I mean, the horrible place is this hostel. Basically, it was like a big room, and it was like like toilet cubicles, like the sort of melamine board with like shower curtains on the front. There was about 8 of them in this room. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's like on drugs, like, people probably fresh out of prison, homeless, all that sort of stuff. But when I was in there, I got a drug and alcohol worker. So that's the first time anyone had actually like engaged with me around that stuff. And then I started like doing a bit of voluntary work with these people and that as well. And like working again, I got another job. I moved like into like a more settled place, and then I started renting a room again off somebody, and I was working. But quickly, back to drinking, dabbling in drugs and all that still. And I say there was one day I was, and this was like Newcastle, like on the, I don't know if it's Westgate Road. It's like the main road in the West End of Newcastle. So I'd been drinking all day. And I mean, drinking and mixing heroin's dangerous anyway. Yeah. So I remember going buying this bag of heroin, and I was sat on this step. It was the back of a bowling alley, and if anybody knows the area, you walk. It's probably 20, 30 meters round to the main road. But weirdly enough, there's a hospital just sort of over the road. And I remember like pushing the plunger down on this needle and thinking, if I put all this in my arm, it's going to kill us, like. And I remember just going, fuck it, like that. No. And to this day, I don't know how I got from sitting on the back of them steps in like a back alley to the main road, but I've got no doubt that I would be dead now if I'd not...
No one spotted you.
If I'd not actually made it to the main road. Whew, I felt a bit emotional there, actually. And I remember waking up in the hospital, and there was like just a doctor and a nurse or whatever, two, like a male and a female. Then and the first thing I said to them, why didn't you just fucking leave us? And that's how low my self-worth had got at that point. So yeah, I don't know. And the bad thing was, I says, well, I'm not staying in here. And I walked straight out the hospital and went straight into a pub. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that must have been sort of a turning point, because they said everybody deserves like help and all that, do you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And maybe that was something clicked into place a little bit, and then it was coming up towards Christmas, and I mean, I never had a thing, and I've got a niece and nephew, and I was thinking, I can't even afford to buy them anything for Christmas, and I'm living in this hostel and all this. And it had been mentioned to me about going into rehab at some point. And I remember because I had like a social worker who would come into the rehab as well. And I said, look, I want to go into rehab. This mad, actually, the drug and alcohol worker from the hostels, I used to go for a drink with her sometimes as well. Way. So then they got me a place into this rehab in Blackpool. And then when we went to go there, they says, oh no, there's been an inappropriate like sort of a relationship with you and your drug and alcohol work. We can't accept it. I was like, oh God, right? So then I was supposed to go to one of the rehabs, Phoenix Futures, on the Wirral. And they said because the amount I'd been drinking, they wanted a liver function test done before that. So they said, look, what we'll do is we'll get you into detox in Sunderland. And I went in there the 1st of December. I think it was 2006 as a rough... Yeah, because I was 30 and it was my 31st birthday while I was still in there. So I went in there and I had that motivation then to change. And the work I used to do was a fiberglass laminator, so that was moulding stuff out of fiberglass. Yeah. And they said, right, is there anywhere, like particular area you'd like to like relocate to? And I said, yeah, the South Coast, because I knew there was like obviously boat building companies and all that sort of stuff down there. And I thought, yeah, planned ahead, I should be able to get a job down there. So I went into this rehab and I went, I think it was about the 19th of December or something, I went down there. And it was like this massive mansion in the middle of nowhere, you know what I mean? There's like 30 odd residents in there. but it was a CBT rehab, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And it was all about taking responsibility and learning about your behaviours, learning how to manage your feelings and not reacting to situations and all that. And I was in there 14 months, and it was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but without a doubt the most beneficial. And I think if anybody, no matter who you are, went into that sort of, you know, like, because it's that condensed, that atmosphere, it brings out all your behaviours, all your reactions. So, I mean, I left there and I went into like they had like a second stage in there, and you used to have to plan your week every month. Not every week, you had like a timetable, and you had to plan your week, and you had 5 elements. So that was health, leisure, education, work, and personal development. And like, we'll come back to that in a little bit. So so then I actually signed up like onto a thing, you know, to get like a place in this like supported housing when I left as well. And then I had a place in there, and then I ended up getting my own flat. I'd like done a credit check because I was a drinker and I always had like a job. I had loads of debt as well. So it probably took us a few years to pay all that off. So yeah, I mean, I left there, got a job, and then I got made redundant after like a few months when the housing market crashed in 2009. And that was something I learned from as well. So this company I worked for, fiberglass company, all the other ones I worked for made loads of different things. The only thing they'd done was, you know, like dormer roofs and window canopies and stuff like that. So it was all to the housing industry. And when the property market crashed, they went bust. And I was like, what can I do now? So I went to college, done my like level 2 electrical, and I got an award, Electrical Student of the Year. And then I started my level 3, and then I went for a job interview for like someone just checking the lights are still working, the street lights. I'm like, this isn't an electrical job. I said, I'm just trying to get my foot in the door. And they give us a job as an electrician. So I've been there like 10 years now, working for that company. But I've like, and in that time I've done my HGV, I've done like cable jointing training, I've done my mini digger, my high up, do you know what I mean? So and that's one of the things a lot of people say, you know, like with property, do you want to, are you in a rush to give up your day job? Which I'm not really, I quite like the job, and do you know what I mean? So
I love that. Just to...
I know I'm going right.
No, listen, your story is just... Obviously, this is the first time I'm hearing it in such detail, because you touched on it a little bit in the live that you did for the group, and obviously speaking to you on a personal level, I know you've been through quite a lot. To go from sort of 12 years old, and you said you were changing schools, and then off the back of that, you didn't feel like you were sort of fitting in. You then got into the wrong circles, doing the wrong things, such as drinking, drugs, up to the point where you said you're sort of like in that alleyway with the injection. I mean, how you must have been feeling, I can't even comprehend it, to turn around and think to yourself, you know what, I know this is going to end my life, but I don't care, I'm going to inject it anyway. Talk to me a little bit about when you went for CBT therapy, because from the story that you're saying, you try and make a little bit of a change, and then something happens and it knocks you straight back into that bad circle. So when you did go for your therapy, for your 14 months even, what was that like? What was that period of time like, and how did you manage to snap out of these bad sort of habits and circles that you were getting yourself into?
I mean, I think it's almost like being reprogrammed to an extent. I mean, one of the groups is called a peer eval, and you sit there in this group, and it starts off, the person on the right hand side of you, they'll sit there and they'll say, you're dishonest, you're devious, you're manipulative, and all this, right? And the whole room goes round and tells them, you know, what behaviours and stuff like that they're seeing you. And you're not allowed to respond at all to any of it.
Okay.
So, like, imagine, you know, like, you know, one person can call but if 20 people call you the same thing, then you've got to sort of take that on board, haven't you? But, I mean, and a lot of it, you know, like, so I hit me dad as well when I was drunk one time. So you wrote letters like apologise and for, you know, like, you know, because you're carrying that shame and all that sort of stuff as well. So I think it's like, maybe it's like that compound effect of small changes gradually being made. And before we used to go off site, we used to have to do a risk assessment. So, you know, like being an alcoholic, so if you're going into a town centre, you know, there's a high risk if you're walking down a drink aisle in a shop. If you're going into an off licence, speaking to some homeless person is a risk. Going near a pub's a risk. So it's about identifying all them sort of things. And it's mad because there's a thing called seemingly irrelevant decisions and seemingly irrelevant behaviours. And in that compound effect book as well, it talks about like seemingly irrelevant decisions, what we make throughout our life. You know, so it was, yeah, and obviously you have key work sessions, so you like talk about your issues, you know, and you maybe think, yeah, I do feel like rejected, you know, I do feel like I might get treated differently. I don't like it when things seem unfair as well.
Was it giving you a different perspective on the problems that you had, or was it more helping you sort of realise the path that you were going down was wrong, and it's just a case of, like you said, reprogramming your mind and thinking, okay, the decisions that I was making almost without thinking before are actually the decisions that are getting me into these problems. Yeah. Like how you said, you'd walk down a drink aisle and it might be, okay, I might just pick up one or even talk to the wrong person, think the wrong things. But to physically or mentally reprogram someone, that's got to be a testament to yourself, because when you've had years of almost being stuck in these bad habits, to then be able to snap out of it with 14 months of intense sort of like rehab and therapy, that's difficult, man. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
It was intense, it was. I mean, the amount of people that used to walk out of there, do you know what I mean? And yeah, as I said, it's the hardest, but I think obviously to make that decision to go in the first place is like probably the biggest step. Yeah. You know, and there's some, you know, you've got to want to change anywhere. And I suppose it's like when you start doing property as well, you know, there's some reason why you choose to start watching YouTube videos or joining a Facebook group or whatever you do. You've got something there what you want to like expand, haven't you?
Like I said, the one of the things that kind of touched me, and obviously you've spoken about it quite a lot today, is like your past. You spoke about that in the live that you did. A lot of people reached out to myself to say how much of an inspiration you are. Did you get any sort of feedback yourself from anyone reaching out to you? Or
yeah, when you said that, you know, when you feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah.
So I was just, I think I'd been to work, you know what I mean, one day, and I'm just sat there and I get to ping a Facebook Messenger message off somebody. And this lad messaged me and he said, oh, I've just been watching you live. Because I think I shared that on my own profile as well. And so this lad messaged me and he said, like, his brother died of a heroin overdose as well. And he was like, you know, if you can ever go back to that rehab and share that story and all that. And I was sat there, Gov, and I just started crying reading that. I feel like emotional now saying it, you know, and I started crying reading that message. And my wife's like, what's wrong with you? And I mean, at that time I was drinking as well, do you know what I mean? And it was mad because we met up, didn't we, in January, whenever it was. And this person came in and, like, you know, when you just feel a connection with somebody. Yeah. And then later that night you asked him how he come to join the Newbies group. Yeah. And he was like, oh, well, I watched this live video. And I was like, fucking hell, is that you? Do you know what I mean? And it was just like mad, Gov, you know. And that's what, you know, before we done this today, you said, is anything, you know, you don't want me to mention and stuff like that. And Gov, and, you know, for one person to sort of contact me like that, it makes, like, exposing myself and being honest about me past worth it, Gov, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy because the one thing that unites us all is property. I mean, that's the reason we're sat right here, is because we both got into property. But the story that you have and what someone else went through and what someone else went through and how this is all interconnected is just crazy. Like I said, what are the chances that you were just open and honest about your past? and then for someone to reach out to you and say like, I watched it and I know that person was quite emotional as well, and then to send a message to you to say thank you for being so open and honest about it. I can totally relate to your story, and then for you to get emotional about it as well. It's insane. It's insane.
That's just mad, Gov, and that's the thing. And I mean, you know, somebody could be watching this, Gov, and there might be, you know, a lot of people, you know, they know they drink too much, don't they? And, you know, and if anyone wants to reach out as well. And
because you're probably the best example of someone who's been through, like, from like 12 years old, feeling a certain type of way in not fitting in school, then obviously probably just hanging around with the wrong crowd, doing drugs, doing drink, moving in and out of places, being homeless at one point as well. If someone's life, they felt like they were going down that path, what's the best advice you could probably give them?
It's changed, isn't it? Why is your life like that? You know, like we said, we touched on, Gov, what choices are you making? You know, we can all blame external, you know, where we live, the people we live with, the people we're around or whatever, but it's self-responsibility, Gov, at the end of the day, you know? And, you know, I made all them decisions myself, Gov. You know, nobody forced me to do it. So how can you change? You know, what can you do differently? You know, if you're in a crap relationship, abusive relationship with someone, then remove yourself out of that situation, you know. And it might not always be easy to do and make that change, but life's too short to be unhappy, isn't it? You know, and it is. So if there's something not right in your life, then change it.
That's always probably the hardest step of anything that you do when it comes to change is, can you get yourself to break out of that mold and actually, and this is not to say one thing is right or the other, because people are put in situations that they never asked for. And the path that they take as a result of their situation is some respects in their control, and in some respects it's dependent on the decisions that they make and whether they want to change it. I think your story is just absolutely incredible. Like I said, to go from everything that you went to, the lowest point in your life, to turning it around, wanting to do everything for yourself, wanting to do everything for your daughter is just incredible. Obviously now you've set up a property company, you've got your own business. You guys you're doing pretty well in that respect. So let's take it back to a little bit about how you started your property company, why property as a whole, and a little bit about your property business and what you're doing right now.
Right. So yeah, I mean, after I'd come out the rehab and that, obviously I'd had a drink for a few years and all that sort of stuff. I got married, I had a daughter, we bought our own house. So yeah, and I hadn't had a drink for like 12 years. And yeah, I was still interested in property, and I went to one of these, like, you know, where you see the advert on Facebook, like free property seminar thing, and they're just trying to sell you a load of courses for God knows how much. And I think this first one I went to, it was about $3,000 to go to this other course. And I Googled it a bit, and it was like a 3-day course. And then they said, like, you know, then they want you to do like another course, what's like $20,000 or something. Do you know what I mean? I was thinking, well, I just haven't got that money. Do you know what I mean? So then I started watching a few videos on YouTube, joined a few Facebook groups. And one of the Facebook groups I later found out, because then a few people added me that was clearly into property for some reason. And then obviously you start watching people doing lives and stuff like that. And so I started, like, I think I watched some YouTube videos, and it was a 3-day property or 4-day property event. And they mentioned rent to rent. And I thought, well, that's not, you know, low start up, you don't need a big, huge deposit, all that sort of stuff. But I was a bit cautious, because obviously, you know, you've got all these like crypto traders and all this on Facebook, and the message on like Instagram, don't they give us $300 and I'll give you like £1,000 a day sort of thing. You think, well, they're clearly scams there. So with the like rent to rent, I was still a little bit unsure. So last year in I don't know if it was January or February last year, I sort of, I ended up drinking again. And I think it must have been about April time. I was going through a rough patch with my wife and all that stuff. And I was drinking this day and started watching some of these, like, someone was live on Facebook and that, and I contacted two of the people that were rent-to-rent mentors. And but I was still... So I was pissed when I done it, actually. and I think that did give me that little bit of courage to take the risk. Because you think, you're paying someone, I can't even remember how much it was. It was, I don't know if it was like 1,500 quid or 1,700 or whatever it was. And you just think, well, I haven't got a clue who this person is, do you know what I mean? Like, they could just delete their profile the next day or whatever. You just don't know, do you? Or like... So anyway, I started the mentorship in May last year. Obviously, set my company up, all like the compliance stuff you need to do, like PRS scheme and that stuff. And so I mean, I got the training, and then I'm trying to get my first deal, and that is like...
Tell us about your first deal, how you got through it, what your processes were, what your mindset was like. Talk us through all of it.
So I mean, obviously the first deal, I think, like, at first I was like looking for, like, say 4-bed houses with 2 reception rooms, or 3-bed houses with 2 reception rooms, stuff like that. And then I started looking at, like, registered HMOs. But I just seemed to try. And I was concentrating on Portsmouth. And I was thinking, well, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? And then I'd done another little bit of training with somebody else. And I mean, I was like going on Rightmove and saying, right, there's a property in this street. Like, I was searching for 5-bed houses or like rooms or wherever. And, like phoning agents, and they are liars, aren't they, agents? I mean, I went to an agent and I viewed this property, but so what had happened, it was like a bit of a misunderstanding to an extent. So like, there was a fella out this agency had took me to see a couple of like HMOs, and then like they sort of come back with, the landlord's not interested or whatever, but I had said it was for a company let. So then I rang up again, the same agent, and it was a woman who answered, and she says, I don't know if he was on holiday, this fella, or not working there longer or what. So I just presumed she knew it was for a company let. So I went to have a look at this HMO, and there was actually a bit of paper stuck in the window, saying like rooms to rent. So I took the phone number down, and I'd rang like her back the week after, and she said, I'm waiting for him to make a decision on like whether we'd have a company let and all that. I says, okay. So then I rang the fella direct. She'd never even mentioned it to her.
Oh my God.
So I went to see this fella, and I had a look around his house and all that. And we're obviously trying to get your first deal. He's like, how many other properties have you got? And you haven't got that, what's the word I'm looking for? Credibility, And I says, it's just so hard to speak to landlords directly. Then he said, just go on Student Pad. And I was like, you know what? Even though I never got that deal off him, he gave me that little pearl of like going on this website where he advertises called Student Pad. And that's got like landlords' direct numbers on, email addresses and all this stuff. So the same again. I mean, I've drove round streets just hand posting letters through doors. The old land registry stuff's a bit too expensive, isn't it? £3 a pop. So I thought, right, what can I do? I thought I've tried every single thing, I've like, because of that Student Pad, I phoned landlords direct, I sent emails to them, I sent letters, I hand posted letters, and I thought, I'm just banging my head against the wall. There must be something I can do different. And I thought I've done everything I possibly can to get a house in Portsmouth. So I thought, right, old Mr. Gov there showed us this little Zoopla trick. So I thought, yeah, widen my area. So I don't know if it was like on a Saturday or a Sunday. I thought, right, I'll widen my area. I thought, right, 40 miles from my postcode, which is like a reasonable distance to get within an hour. I think on the Wednesday, I had a phone call from an estate agent in Southampton. They were like, we've got 2 properties you can view. Okay, then. So then on the Thursday, one of them's gone now, but we've got another 2 you can view. So I went there and I viewed a 4-bed at first, and then I viewed a 7-bed. And the mad thing about the 7-bed one, that the landlord was there as well. And he says, I want to meet you, like, you know, like who I'm going to let me property to and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that must have been about the October. Obviously made him his offer and stuff like that, and I started that one on the 1st of November, which in itself was probably a mistake as well because of the time of year. Yeah, you know, trying to fill 7 beds in November is quite hard work. Like. But I can remember posting in the group as well, Gov, and like some of the people, you know, like rewrote me whole adverts for us and everything, and you know, and like that thing about the group is like, you know, people will just help you. Nobody wants anything in return.
I actually remember that. I think you reached out because even afterwards when you had your rooms and you were like, look, I've got I need someone to help me fill them as much as I can. And there was just people coming out and helping you. But not just that, you've actually passed that favour on. So when other people need advice, help, tips, you're there. One thing you touched on in your live, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, and it's important because it's weird, because I was talking to Richie about a similar thing, whereby property is an incredibly lonely game. Like when you're starting out, like I said, you don't have friends that don't really understand what you're doing, you don't have family that don't really understand. And he said something which was quite sort of, it kind of hit home a little bit when you were talking about trying to explain some of this to your colleagues and stuff at work. What was that like because I know from following your profile and obviously just knowing you in general, you started to do a lot of Facebook Lives to get your name out there and just share your story with everyone. And then, like I said, you mentioned a little bit about when you mentioned this at work. What was that like?
Well, I think what was, I was doing the lives on Facebook, and I'd only done a few, and you know, you're a bit like nervous and like maybe it's a bit stuttering and probably, you know, to do a live to an extent, you need to like have a few bullet points and know what you're talking about and stuff like that. And I'd done this live and I was talking about like setting goals and all that. And the next day everyone's taking the piss, you know what I mean? Oh, like, you know, like setting goals. Oh, if you don't have goals and all this stuff. And so yeah, then I think, I don't know if it was that night, I went on and I'd done a live. And I was like, do you know what? I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. You know, I'm doing this for my daughter and my wife and my family, and to have a better life and to achieve something. Do you know what I mean? But the sort of job I do as well, a lot of the people in that sort of job do think they're better than other people and stuff as well, Gov, you know? And like, I'm a bit like, you know what? I don't think I'm better than anybody else, Gov, and I don't think anybody else is better than me neither. Do you know, whether you're like, you know, Bill Gates or some homeless geezer on the street, we're both human beings, aren't we? And you know, everybody has different qualities in life, and we're all equal, Gov.
Do you feel like when you started property in your business, your mind was a little bit more open in terms of what you could potentially achieve yourself? Because one thing that I've noticed is when you're around certain people, whether it be in your workplace or otherwise, they're very much closed-minded. I'm not saying that applies to all of them, but a lot of people that are happy with their jobs and careers won't necessarily think, okay, should I start a business? Should I try and maybe even just step out of my comfort zone? Do you feel like once you started your property business and journey and even being surrounded by different people kind of opened your mind up a little bit to potential in terms of what you're capable of?
I think there's something inside of us, Gov. There's something different about us, right? That we're not happy with that 9 to 5. You know, we know there's something better than that out there. Do you know what I mean? And there's just something, Guff. There's some seed what we've had planted into us.
It goes back to pretty much when you were saying when you were just 12 years old and you saw the Italian guy and you thought, you know what, I want the fast car, I want the best life, but you don't want it to be handed to you. You want to earn it and get the respect that comes with actually going out and working and earning it. Why was it property that took you down that path and not e-commerce or a physical business like a shop or anything like that? Why was it specifically property?
I think, I don't know, obviously my dad's a plumber, I'm an electrician, you know, it's like property, and it's just like, it's that bricks and mortar thing, isn't it, Gov? You know, property, you know, it's got capital growth. So you can buy a house and in 20 years' time, it's probably worth double or triple that price anyway, without doing anything, really. You'd have to maintain it, wouldn't you, if you've got a tenant in it? But it's just capital growth. You can't really fail with property to an extent. It's
a real sort of definition of building wealth, isn't it? Right, because you're building not only wealth for yourself, but also generational wealth, actually owning an asset which over time has shown to sort of appreciate in value. I want to actually, if it's all right with yourself, I've had some amazing questions come through, man, from the newbies, and I just want to share some of these questions with yourself because I think, like I said, from a personal point of view, your story and your background is just absolutely incredible, man. And like I said, a lot of these guys know you on a personal level as well, and a few of them have got some questions. So, as usual, big up the newbie family, as usual. So for anyone that doesn't know, I tend to put we've got a WhatsApp group as well as a Facebook group as well, and we tend to put a post up when we know a guest is going to come on the show. And as soon as I knew Christian was coming on, my inbox was full, man, always. So I'm going to go through some of these questions. And it'd be interesting to see your opinions on them. So the first question is from Kabir, and this is one that I'm actually interested in knowing as well. So Kabir is asking, did you ever feel like quitting in terms of property and business and also just in general? And what kept you motivated through the times that you were struggling?
So, yeah, I mean, like getting your first deal, as we know, Gov, is it's hard, isn't it? And so yeah, obviously getting that first deal, you know, like I said, I got to a point and I'm just thinking, I've tried everything I possibly can. I just don't know what else to do now. So obviously I'd done a little bit other training with somebody else, and I think that did refocus me a little bit as well. But you know, like, because I'd paid money like to 2 mentors, then kind of, I felt a bit like, you know what, this is the point of no return, you know. And one of the speakers at the second bit of training said, like, persistence is the key. Yeah. You know, if you keep persisting, you will get that deal, you know, like, without a doubt. But they said, like, obviously, like, that persistence, it will pay off. And I think for me, it was more like, you know, I'd put so much time and effort and even the financial thing of, like, paying for a mentor and then another bit of training. I thought, I'm at that point of no return now where I've got to get that deal because I've invested like money into it and that. And yeah, I think, and I suppose that thing of people taking the piss at work and stuff as well.
Just to prove them.
It's like, yeah, I've got to do it now just to say, you know what, fuck you. Do you know what I mean?
No, I love that. If you don't mind me asking, because obviously you went through quite a tough childhood, you went through quite a lot, and you've just been really open about it. And I know you jumped from sort of doing drugs and sort of going into sort of rehab, coming back out and then drinking and then going on to stronger stuff. And then at one point, like I said, your life just came to a head and you were sat in the alleyway and you just thought, that is it. After that point, what is keeping you motivated now to just want to succeed in everything that you do? Because you've not, like, there's turning your life around and there's completely doing just a complete 360, 180, whatever you want to say, and you've just gone the other direction and you're just so focused now. You've not just got one HMO, you've got 2, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. You've got a third one on the way.
That's coming.
Third one on the way.
I've signed the contract off.
Amazing. But Have you got anything in your personal life that drives you?
Like I said, I did start drinking again, but I've stopped again now. I mean, I've got a 7-year-old daughter, and yeah, I mean, I love her to bits. She's like, you know, she's everything to me. And obviously, I've realised that drinking again was not a good idea. So, like, I stopped a short time ago, you know. And but yeah, my daughter, it's for my daughter, and you know, I want to build a legacy for her.
Oh, I love that.
You know, so she's got a better life as well, and like, I want her to have anything she ever wants, really. But basically, do you know what I mean? So,
no, I love that. I love that. When it's when you've got like an individual that is your inspiration and you want to leave everything for. It's just it's so powerful. You mentioned something there. Actually, it's not one of the questions, but I thought we'll touch on it since we're on that topic. You mentioned a key word there, compound effect, man. You got to tell me about this, because I know exactly what you're talking about, because it is a phenomenal read. It will change your life. Right. Tell me a little bit what impact that book's had on yourself.
Right. So, I mean, we'll dive into like a little bit of how I come to read that.
Go on. Go for
it. I mean, I know the newbies group covers a lot about learning stuff and getting, you know, free information as well. But like, obviously when you know, like that motivation of when I was about to quit. So, I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, like, you know, like when I said about them 5 elements through rehab, you know, health, leisure. So like, yeah, we need health, we need leisure, we need to work, we need education and personal development, isn't it? So for me, the education is, you know, if you get a mentor and like, so yeah, I thought, right, I've got a couple of HMOs and stuff like that. And obviously coming from, you know, being an electrician, my dad's a plumber, I thought BRR is a perfect strategy for me. And I've had a little bit of experience at dealing with tenants and stuff with the HMOs. So that seemed to be the, you know, the natural progression. So I think HMOs rent to rent is brilliant for cash flow. So buy to let is, you know, that's like your long-term investment, isn't it? And that's for my daughter, that portfolio to build up. I forgot what the question was.
No, we're talking about the compound effect.
Yeah, so I contacted a mentor. And I mean, he's got like £2.2 million property portfolio. I think he said he owns he said he's got 30 houses and he owns 20 of them. So I'm not sure whether that means outright or what, but yeah. So I contacted him and I had my first session with him just over a month ago. I had my second session with him just Friday gone. And yeah, that he said, read this book, The Compound Effect, or like audio book. I mean, I listened to it twice. And yeah, I mean, a lot of that and a lot of, you know, it sort of ties in with that rehab stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? Like we are here exactly today, Gov, from a series of choices we have made 100%. In our life.
100%.
You know, even that negative choice I made to have a drink, like it, you know, last February, you know, I might have never been here if it wasn't for that, because I might not have took that risk to have the first mentor to learn rent to rent.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, and if anybody is going to listen to any book or whatever, it needs to be that one.
It's fantastic. It's that along with Atomic Habits, probably 2 of my favorite reads of like all time. Just making small, tiny steps that you're able to complete, not setting targets too big, not setting targets too small, just steps that you're able to complete, and over time the impact and effects that will have just being consistent with them. It's crazy. I got a question from Steve, and obviously you and Steve have got a good friendship. He's asking, have you learned anything from taking on your HMOs that wasn't necessarily taught in sort of a mentoring program? Was there anything that when you did start taking them on, you thought, oh, hang on a sec, I've not experienced this before?
It's like driving, isn't it? You learn to drive. You can only learn the basics, can't you? You know, so I don't think you start learning to drive till you've passed your test, do you? And obviously, you know, I think with a mentor, they can only teach you so much. They can only teach you like the foundation, the basics, can't they, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's probably all sorts I've learnt, really. And
Do you feel like a lot of the mentoring will teach you like the foundation and groundwork, but it's only until you actually jump in 2 feet full on that you realize, well, because to teach every tiny aspect and scenario is probably impossible. If you use the example of driving, your instructor can teach you how to react in certain situations, but can't teach you every single scenario. That's physically impossible. So do you feel like for any newbies that are watching, obviously, as you mentioned, the mentoring will teach you so much, but you just need to literally just get hands-on, and you've probably done most of your learning through that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so say there was a lad smoking weed in one of the rooms. You know what I mean? It's like, right, well, what do you do? So, like, you know, I just, like, went and spoke to him about, look, you can't be doing it, like, you know, and it's, I suppose you've got to be able to, like, accept confrontation to a degree as well, because if you haven't, you know, if you haven't got that in you to approach people and tell them, like, you're going to struggle, really, I would say, like in HMOs.
That's the thing with tenants. You'll always get the odd 1-2 tenants that just overstep the boundary. I know the Fontaine brothers, who I had on sort of like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, they had an issue whereby they didn't even know who the tenant was. That ended up being. Do you remember that story where that tenant actually brought another person down? But as you mentioned, you've got to be a strong character to be able to stand up and say, well, look, what you're doing is not right. And I think a lot of newbies may forget that that's part of the process, especially when you're taking on HMOs. You're dealing with people that might be a bit difficult.
And I think obviously with HMOs as well, it's sort of a turnover of people, isn't it? Where it's like, say if you've got like a 3-bedroom buy-to-let, you might have a family in there for 20 years. Yeah. But like a HMO is more of like a short stopgap, isn't it? Until someone gets a flat or something. And, you know, a lot of people, they might have just split up with a partner, so they need a room quickly and stuff like that with the HMO. I mean, obviously the lockdown. The lockdown, I was panicking. And it actually worked out all right for me. I had like someone like just, funny enough, I had somebody message me and they said, oh, can my mate have Chris's room when he's gone? This was this Polish lad. And I was like, oh yeah, but I don't know when he's gone. 10 minutes later, he messaged me, oh, I need to leave on Friday. And like, obviously he paid like a deposit, which he ended up losing. And then like this other lad's mate took the room straight away. You know, and people's extended the contracts because of it. I had one person move out, and I said, look, you don't have to move out. You can claim, like, universal credit for a couple of months till you get sorted and all that. And then I had a girl from India who was a student. She'd been working at Primark. Her visa ran out at the end of March. Then she couldn't fly out, but they extended her visa. She paid me another month's rent.
You kind of touched on it there, and it's another question that's come in. Once you've got HMOs now, is there a certain number of HMOs that you would like to continue sort of like acquiring before you move on to something else? Or are you looking into different strategies as you're going along, sort of your refurb, serviced accommodation, buy-to-lets?
I mean, yeah, like BRR is what, like I say, someone spoke about that at an event and I thought, you know, it was like a bit of a light bulb moment, I thought. Because I bought my house in like 5 years ago for 109 grand, and it's worth 160 now because of the work I've done on it. You know, I've knocked walls out in it. I've, you know, new kitchen, new bathroom. The only thing I haven't done myself in there was the plastering. But as I say, it was just like, wait a minute, this is what I need to do is BRR because I can do everything myself pretty much. Yeah. And obviously, yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to go and help my dad as a plumber, you know, like I used to screw all the radiator brackets on the wall and stuff like that. And, you know, notch the joists out for the copper pipe and stuff. So I guess that's why I'm like, I'm hands-on like that, really. And so I think, yeah, you know, I don't know how many, like, refurbs, but I'd be really hands-on with it. And obviously, I think you would get to a point where you just outsource it all anyway.
So my question to you would be, what does the future hold for Christian?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so yeah, I mean, my sort of plan at the minute, so obviously I've just, I start this next HMO on the 1st of July. I think I would like to get between 3 and 5 grand cash flow a month off the rent-to-rents. And obviously, within 12 months, a couple of buy-to-lets through BRR, which I think, it's achievable. I'm not saying I want 20 buy-to-lets by December, do you know what I mean? So I think if I could get 2, I'd be happy. Any more is a bonus.
Have you got any like personal goals that you'd want to hit off? Anything?
Yeah.
You want to share some of those with us?
Right. Like I said, the old Rolex goal. Well, I did have one in 2015 when my mum died. I got like a bit of money and I bought one, but I sort of put like $1,000 to it or something like that and got on like finance, and then I'd end up selling it. But I think I sold it for about 500 quid more than I paid for it, because they're a massive investment, golf.
Yeah.
Like, and that was a Submariner, but that was just the plain black one. It had the date, so I want to go for the, like the gold and silver bracelet one now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's one of my goals. I would like to buy another Submariner by the end of the year. Like,
that'd be amazing.
Obviously, holidays, we're a bit stuck now, aren't we? But yeah, I mean, I've got a holiday to Cuba booked, haven't I? But I don't know when I'll be able to go. Hopefully, I'll get there this year. But yeah, I mean...
do a bit of travelling.
Yeah, I say I've took my daughter. She's been to Disneyland and Paris a couple of times, but I'd like to take her to, like, America. What do you call that Star Wars world? What's it called?
Oh, I know it's
Galaxy's Edge. That's a bit of me who wants to go there, but it's a nice excuse to take her as well, isn't it? So it's like, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to go to America too, and I'd like to go to Mexico. There's loads of places, and I like to see different cultures as well, and go and how different people live and stuff. So yeah, traveling, and I'd like to buy a better house. I live in like a 2-up, 2-down terraced house at the minute, so. I'd like a nice detached house somewhere with a double garage on and
love it.
A couple of sports cars in there, do you know what I mean? But,
I love it.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I do feel as well with travelling, it does make you a better, well-rounded individual. You know how you're talking about learning about different cultures? It does put everything into perspective. Christian, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always. And I just want to tell you a little bit from sort of my point of view. I've known you for... It's crazy how long I've known you, actually. It's just under a year, pretty much. And as I mentioned, on the surface, you're the most down-to-earth guy that I've literally ever met. Like, we just clicked from the moment that I met you, whether it be online, whether it be in person, we've just clicked. But everything that you've been through in your life and the way that you've just been open and honest about it and not hid anything back with the sole premise of, I went through it, I turned my life around, and if anyone else is watching this, if anyone else can relate to this even remotely, just one aspect of it, just know that there's a little bit of hope. It's just endearing, man, from everything from when you were a kid, as I mentioned, to all the circles that you went round, talking about sort of rehab, talking about homelessness, and talking about the point where you were so low that you just said, this is it for me. And then to wake up from that and to see the guy that you are right now, those two like situations are just literally just night and day. And then now you're telling me, obviously, we need to make sure that you get that Rolex, you get the sports car, you treat your daughter, you treat yourself. It's just humbling. And like I said, you're not the type of guy that's flashy or anything like that. You said one thing which was powerful, man. We're all just humans. End of the day, no one is better or worse than anyone else. And anyone that's ever met you has only ever said good things. So it just goes to show what sort of legacy you're leaving, not in terms of just your portfolio, but you as an individual, man. So for that, I want to say, as always, Mr. Christian, I just want to hold a toast to yourself. And I want to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, man, have you got any final words before we wrap this up?
Well, I would like to say thank you to you, Gov, and it's a humbling to this is your 4th podcast, Gov, and like to be asked, like with, you know, alongside the Fontaine brothers, Gwyn, Richie. It's like, I feel quite honoured, Gov, and it's a privilege.
Nah, it was always going to happen.
You know, I feel emotional.
No, man. Is there any way that anyone can get in touch with you and just connect and just reach out with yourself?
Yeah. I think Facebook is my chosen platform, and if anyone wants to ask us anything about HMOs, property, you know, if anybody's struggling with, you know, if they think they're drinking too much, or, you know, and they want any advice on any of that stuff as well, Facebook, you know, I'm always happy to even have a phone call with people as well, you know, and just send us a message on Messenger. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, literally, guys, all the links will be in the description, even everything from your Instagram to your Facebook, and LinkedIn, TikTok. If you want to see dance tutorials, TikTok as well, and obviously, like I said, you're more than receptive for people reaching out. And also, if anyone is in the newbies group, then just feel free to reach out to you through there as well. So,
definitely.
Guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and until next time. Peace out.